Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle and today I'm talking about what it's been like being a nurse these past 9 months, the pros and the cons, and everything in between. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into this video. Alright, so first I just want to give you guys a little bit of background on me and how I became a nurse, because that was not my original major in undergrad, and I even went on to grad school in a different field, and then I went to nursing school. So I graduated in 2017 with my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry, and I went on to grad school for 2 years, and I received my Master's in Chemistry as well. Ultimately, I just wasn't enjoying the field of chemistry. It seemed like a lot of people weren't getting jobs upon graduation with their PhD. They were either forced to do a postdoc or just forced to kind of look throughout the entirety of the United States just to find some opening. And then the pay was also really low for the jobs that they were getting. So for instance, I'm making more now as a nurse than I would have been making with my master's in chemistry for a job that I was offered. Like I'm making, at the end of this year, I'll make $30,000 more than what I would have made with this chemistry degree with a master's. And so all you need for the like where I work is an associate's. So imagine just making $30,000 more than someone with a master's. So that kind of just like was one of the reasons. I also wanted to have a direct impact on others, and it just seemed like healthcare I'd be able to do that. Now, do I actually make a direct impact? Yes and no. I think a lot of the tedious parts of, being a nurse kind of hinder you from being able to spend too much time with your patients, but every now and then I have some patients who like you really are like, okay, yeah, I've made a difference, whereas others I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I'm making a difference or not for them, and I hope that I am. And I think a lot of what happens in the US in terms of care just could be different, but I'll get into that in another video. That's not the purpose of this one. So yeah, I decided I didn't want to pursue the PhD anymore. I got my master's in chemistry, and then I went straight on to nursing school. So I started applying really the fall of my second year of grad school, got in and took whatever prereqs I didn't have. So anatomy 1 and 2, I needed a stats, and then I needed microbiome because we just didn't have to take those as a purely chemistry major. So I went ahead and took all of those classes, graduated, and then promptly in the fall went on to an accelerated bachelor's program. It was about 16 months. Was it accelerated? Truly not. We just went through the summers. So I wish I had done one that was 12 months so I could have been finished a bit faster, spent a little bit less money, etc. What unit did I start on? So I graduated last year in December of 2020, and I started in the surgical ICU January of this year. So there was just a 1 month, wait for me because they were doing the temporary nursing license. Otherwise, I probably would have started in March, taken my boards in February, which I still ended up taking my boards in February, getting my official license that wasn't temporary in February, and the rest is just kind of history. But I knew I wanted to work in an ICU, whether that was the medical ICU or the surgical ICU. I even would have taken the neuro ICU. That would have been my third choice. But I would have taken it because ultimately I wanted to be in the critical care setting. Why? Just because you have lower patient ratios, you're actually able to do a little bit more with the patients. You're able to critically think. So I'm able to titrate life-saving medications. Whereas if I had done anything else, I wouldn't have had the opportunity really to do any of that. I didn't want to go into the ER just because I like a more controlled environment, and in the ICU, they're sick, but it's controlled and everything is monitored. Whereas in the ER, like you don't know what you're going to get, what your day is going to look like, and that would have been more anxiety producing for me. Whereas in the ICU, it's really just, you can put all your ducks in a row and make it very organized, if you know what I mean. I mean, sometimes it is chaotic and things get out of hand, but for the most part, you can have it be organized. So that just kind of aligned with me. I like knowing what I might be getting, and that's why I chose critical care. What shift do I work? So I am on the night shift, and at first I was very hesitant to working it. I signed for a day shift, and then it got flipped to nights. So I was very upset about that, but then I also was like, oh, I'll make a little bit more money. I think you make like 10,000 more by working nights. But now that I've been working for 9 months, I truly can say I don't like it. I don't enjoy the night shift at all. It's taking a very strong toll on my body. I even feel my kidneys like I feel like a pain in my kidneys from working nights, and I actively am looking towards being on days, hopefully soon. Maybe I'll hit my 1 year of nights, but I don't think that any of the benefits of night shift are worth the toll that it's taken on my body. So that's all I'll say about nights. That is one of my cons for nursing, but we'll go ahead and get into the list of pros and cons now. So pro number 1, flexibility. You can work anywhere as a nurse. If you want to work in California, New York, Hawaii, Florida, North or South Dakota, wherever, you can find a job because nurses, are in need. There's a demand for nurses. Nurses are leaving the field, so you'll always find a job somewhere. It may not be the shift you want or the unit you want, but you'll find a job. So I do like that flexibility of being able to live wherever I want, and being able to work wherever I want, and ultimately you can hold out for the job that you want to. Eventually there'll be an opening. If you want critical care, just hold on and wait. Like for me, I wasn't going to accept anything but an ICU. I didn't care where I had to go. It would have to be an ICU. And I got it. And it was fairly easy for me. So I don't think it's too difficult. And I know people say, oh, you have to have perfect grades or whatever. I don't know if that's true. I work with people who had less than stellar grades. I work with people who have an associate's and not a bachelor's. So because there's a shortage, like hospitals really can't be selective in who they're picking. So number 2, pay is a pro if you're a traveler, just because you can pick up these assignments that, $5,000 a week, $10,000 a week, like people are making great money. There's someone who is a traveler who comes to my unit and they're like, yeah, no, I just got a $10,000 a week travel contract. So they're going to make $130,000 in 3 months. So the pay can be amazing. If you're a staff nurse, no. And that is one of my cons for staff nursing. But if you're a traveler, then that's great. And everyone can eventually become a traveler. People who have kids travel. So, you can make it work. Pro number 3, you work 3 days and or nights and have 4 days off. If you work night shift, it really feels like you have one less day off because the one of the 4 is for transitioning, and that's only if you work 3 in a row. So that's kind of nice. I think if you're on days, especially working 3 and having 4 off to just kind of do whatever you want, that's kind of nice. Especially if you have kids, then I think it can make it more feasible in terms of being a parent. I don't know, I don't have kids, but I would imagine. So number 4, avenues for career advancement. And I'm just looking down at my notes over here. So there's so many different avenues that you can take within the field of nursing. You can go into aesthetics. I know many nurses who have started their own business and they do Botox, they do laser hair removal, electrolysis, a bunch of other, aesthetic things. And that's awesome. That's an avenue that you can go into if you want to start your own business. Then there's anesthesia. You can become a nurse anesthesiologist and administer anesthesia to patients for different procedures, whether it's outpatient, inpatient, you name it. There's different opportunities there, and that's something that I'm actually interested in. You can also be a school nurse, have your summers off to travel. That's an option for you. I don't know if I would go straight into that right as a new grad nurse, but later on in your career, maybe you want to do that. Or if you know that that's absolutely what you want to do, then go ahead and do that. Then there's options for advanced degrees. You can get your DNP or your MSN and become a nurse practitioner in various fields. So whether you're a neonatal nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner where you kind of see it all, or if you stick to your adults, there's so many different options there within the nurse practitioner field. You can also get a PhD in nursing where you do a lot of research to kind of just advance the field of nursing and also, look for better ways for better patient outcomes, because there are some nurse-driven procedures, and, how can we enhance those procedures and make them a little bit better for better patient outcomes. So those are kind of the 4, I think, major pros of being a nurse and why I decided to be a nurse and why I'm still happy that I went into the field of nursing, because there's just so much in terms of the opportunities for me to advance my career within this, whereas I didn't really see what I was going to do with chemistry, although there are definitely some perks of chemistry too, and perks of chemistry and nursing together. For instance, if I wanted to start my own, hair product, for instance, I can really market that as I'm a chemist and I'm a nurse. So I know the formulations and what's going to be good and healthy and stuff like that. I really can just market myself in that way. Now, for the cons of nursing. One would be increasing workload. We have a lot of people who are leaving bedside nursing who are going to travel nurse, and so with that, that's making everyone who's left have an increasing workload, whether that's number two, unsafe patient ratios, or whether it's just administration expecting nurses to be able to do everything, scanning random papers in for their charts, or, just saying, oh, you can do the stocking as well, stuff like that. They're just expecting nurses to take on all the extra tasks in the hospital, and take care of patients and keep them alive, and it's unsafe. So that would be my number two con, unsafe patient ratios. I am supposed to have 2 patients in the ICU, sometimes 1 if they're really sick, but not 3. And I often have 3, and I'm still a new grad nurse, and I have 3 patients often, and it's unsafe and it's scary for not only me in terms of my license, but also for the patients. I can't be in each of their rooms all the time because I'm divided into 3, and I'm still expected to get everything done in 12 hours, 50% more work, but I'm supposed to still complete it in 12 hours. And so that means no lunch, which sometimes I don't get a lunch with too, but it's just crazy, and the expectations are ridiculous, and you're supposed to chart every 2 hours on 3 patients, and it doesn't make any sense. And you're supposed to get their urine output every single hour on 3 patients, and you're supposed to give them their meds whenever they come up, and then titrate meds. And so it's just kind of ridiculous. And if they're on a vent, then you have to do their oral care every 2 hours to prevent them from having pneumonia, and if they're in pain and they need to request that. And so it's just so many things, but then you're split in 3 ways. And so it's manageable with 2, but 3, it's ridiculous, especially for someone who's still new and still learning. It's really not fair. And then you're not paid any extra when you do 50% more work. Your paycheck is still the same. And so that's kind of ridiculous. Con number 3 is pay for staff nurses. I think that goes hand in hand with what I've said: increasing workload, unsafe patient ratios, and you're not even being incentivized to do all those extra things. So my hospital, for instance, like if you do pick up, then you get an incentive pay, but no one else on the unit does. And if no one picks up, you just take 3 patients and no extra pay. So I think that's another reason why a lot of people are leaving, just because it really isn't worth it. Why work more and be paid the same when you can go travel? And I think a lot of people who are getting their 1 to 2 year of experience now, they're just going to leave too. Like, if hospitals don't care to protect their staff nurses, then why should they care to stay? Especially if it's, their license and, it's damaging their body. Con number 4 is night shift. So it really isn't worth the extra pay because it's so damaging to your body. Like me, for instance, like I feel like I don't remember as much on nights. I feel like my, I'm always drowsy on my days off. I'm just fatigued beyond like any fatigue that I've ever felt before. And then my kidneys hurt, and that's the scariest thing. I've started hurting ever since I worked night shift. And so it's just very damaging to your body to mess with your natural sleep cycle. So I truly hate the night shift, and hopefully I can get off of it soon. And then another con, I guess, is some of the personalities. People aren't really direct with you, at least not on my experience. Maybe they are in other places, but instead of telling you, oh, hey, like this or that, like they just won't tell you, and they'll just go straight to management. And so that's been kind of a stressful thing because you're a new nurse, and you just want to make sure you're doing things. You want to know what you can do better, and people don't want to tell you. So that's just some things. Other people will tell you. It's not everyone, but just kind of a con that I've seen. I like to tell people, hey, you've missed this. I had someone, I was just like, oh, like this needs to be on. And and it's a lot of like, you might get blamed for what you missed that the shift before you missed. And so you just kind of have to check everything else, make sure it's all good. And so it's just a lot. But overall, would I do this again? Yes. Short answer, yes, I definitely would. I think there's so many opportunities within nursing, and for me, I know that bedside nursing isn't a long-term thing. Like, you will not see me as a bedside nurse for 5 years or for 4. 3 tops is what I plan on doing. I do plan on going back to school eventually. I'm just using this time now to pay down some debt, to save up some money, to invest, and maybe buy a house, and then move on to the next thing. But other than that, you won't catch me doing bedside nursing that long. So yeah, with that, I think I'll go ahead and end this video. Maybe there'll be another chat with that. You know, this channel is supposed to be about nursing and about finances, so next week I might get into what I make as a staff nurse and what I hope to make once I transition into the next thing. So with that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.